YouTube, it's Casey Dimon, TaxSaleAcademy.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you prefer to listen on the go, be sure you find us on TaxSalePodcast.com. Again, that's TaxSalePodcast.com. Let's go ahead and switch on over to the audio portion of today's podcast. Welcome to the Tax Sale Podcast, where tax sale investing is made easy. I'm Casey Dimon. I'm a tax sale veteran, expert, and trainer, author of the Tax Sale Playbook, founder of the Tax Sale Academy, and I'm your host right here on the Tax Sale Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast, and as always, at the conclusion of this podcast, if you're looking to learn more about investing in tax-defaulted real estate, head on over to TaxSaleAcademy.com. Again, that's TaxSaleAcademy.com. Today, we're going to be talking about rural or small town tax sale investing. And this is one of my favorite and most successful investment strategies, which is why I'm sharing it with you guys today. And I think it almost goes against the common grain, right? So many people want to start their tax sale investing careers in the big cities. It's almost like clockwork. About once a week, I get an email from a beginner who is struggling to find good tax sale deals. Then they'll go on, and at some point in that email, they'll name one of the 15 or 20 largest cities in the country. The cities that everybody in the world has heard of, right? So when I read those emails, this is what I hear in the back of my mind. I hear, I'm going to an auction that's in the center of one of the largest cities in the country, hoping that no one from that heavily populated city will show up to bid against me. And then when they do, I'm going to get upset because there's a lot of competition. What could you not understand about that, right? That's exactly what these emails are essentially telling me. So here's a good rule of thumb. If you can travel to the opposite end of the country from wherever that city is at and ask 10 different people if they can tell you where that city is located, and every single one of them says, yeah, I've heard of that city before, then that city might just be too big to invest in. Now, that's not always the case. I've got students that are just killing it in Orlando, Tulsa, Miami, Dallas, and other big-name cities. But if 10 strangers from the other side of the country can tell you exactly where a city is located, then you might want to consider that there's going to be some sort of competition there. And if you're willing to deal with that competition, that is perfectly fine with me, but I don't want you to be disappointed that you're going to these large auctions and there's other people there, because that's exactly what happens in these large cities. Some of these cities have so many people that are attending that they'll have huge video boards showing the stage with thousands of people watching and bidding. They'll have a number of different bidders' assistants calling out bids and stuff like that. They are just insane what happens. And then on the extreme flip side of that, I can remember attending an auction one time that was in the office of the tax collector in a relatively small county, like the actual office, not the conference room or the tax collector's building. I'm talking about the actual office that the tax collector used every single day. Now, it was a good size office, I'll give him that, but it was his actual office. So I awkwardly waited for the auction to begin, and then I realized it was just myself, the tax collector, the person handling the auction, and one other bidder. So I got the few properties that I wanted, paid for them, walked out very, very happy. Now, the point is that small towns can often provide a leg up when it comes to getting around competition. The primary reason for that is they just aren't well known and not that many people attend the auctions there. Another reason, however, is based around the resources of the smaller counties. Most small counties, obviously, are going to have smaller budgets than the larger counties. This means that the small counties, they don't have the ability to market the tax sales as well as the larger counties are able to. Now, many large counties, they'll provide you loads and loads of useful information, like property condition reports, pictures, and all sorts of other useful stuff. But the deal is they have budgets and manpower that will be able to provide all that to you as a result of their sheer size and their budgets, right? Now, small counties, they don't have that same luxury. They don't have the luxury of these large budgets and all these manpower to be able to put together this extensive marketing campaign just for their tax sales. So in addition to the reduced attention that smaller counties get based solely on their size, the fact that they don't even provide much information at all in terms of marketing their tax sale properties will also impact their ability to draw large crowds. So essentially, smaller cities are going to attract smaller audiences, which ultimately results in smaller prices, and for you and me, bigger profits. Now, the next question is going to be this. Well, won't you have trouble selling all these properties that you're buying in these small counties? Well, guys, first off, we're not talking about a county like Loving, Texas, where the population is less than 100 people, okay? So while doing research for this episode, I did a little bit of digging, and I realized that I invest in the smaller counties that have 5,000 to 8,000 people. That's a pretty small county, but of course it has a lot more than 100 people like Loving, Texas. And then of course I do invest in much larger counties as well. But I don't go by any sort of official population numbers, and I don't really have any set standards that I go by, but it does go back to the question that I asked earlier in this episode. If you can go to the other side of the country and ask 10 people the name of that city, and if they recognize it, and not a single one of them has heard it, then you might have a good starting point. Now, that's a very unscientific method of doing things, but it's a kind of a helpful way to figure out what's going on in that particular county. You should really seek out counties that still have some sort of industry that exists in that area. Even if the industry is just farming, which is commonplace for many of the smaller communities, make sure there is some industry there. You're also going to want some sort of amenities. I especially prefer areas that have, at the very least, a county seat with an active downtown area and or grocery stores and restaurants, and preferably at least one big box store. You never want to buy in an area where there are so few people that no one will ever buy the real estate that you're going to be selling at some point. What you're looking for is to take full advantage of the lack of competition and the lack of attention to that area while still giving you the ability to actually sell the property at some point in the future. There's definitely a sweet spot there. So the next time you're on a search for a new area to invest in, consider taking a hard look at the smaller, more rural, less known counties. You'll likely find less competition and lower prices, which means more money in the bank for you and I. And when you're ready to get started, the first step, of course, is to get your copy of the Tax Sale Playbook. And you can do that by going to TaxSaleAcademy.com. This is the ultimate guide to buying and selling tax-defaulted real estate. Again, that's TaxSaleAcademy.com. The book itself is completely free. All that we ask is that you cover $4.97 shipping to get it from our warehouse to your front door if you're inside the United States. And then if you really want to invest in yourself and take on the comprehensive training that we offer over at the Tax Sale Academy to really catapult yourself into tax sale success, be sure to head to TaxSaleAcademy.com and click on that join button. Guys, that's it for today's podcast. Now, before I end, I'd like to ask a very quick favor, and that is for you to please take the time out of your day to give us a positive rating just so we know that you are enjoying our free trainings that we provide to you. And as always, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to leave us a comment over on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook, or contact us through TaxSaleAcademy.com. Take care, guys, and make it a successful day. See ya.